Beijing's growing drive to pursue cross-border crime and signals closer regional law enforcement. Now in Beijing, Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng has called for steady and stable development of China-US economic and trade relations. During a meeting with Evan Greenberg and Stephen Orleans from the National Committee on US-China Relations, he emphasized the need for both sides to strengthen cooperation and manage differences while implementing the outcomes of the recent Busan meeting between the two leaders of China and the United States. He has also urged the committee to continue playing a bridging role in fostering mutual understanding and economic collaboration. Meanwhile, the US delegation stressed that maintaining stability in bilateral ties remains crucial and reaffirmed their commitment to supporting deeper exchanges between the world's two largest economies. Now, of course, joining us this hour is Stephen Neji. He is a professor at the International Christian University, and he joins us live from Tokyo to discuss the ongoing US-China trade tensions. Stephen, of course, this follows the meeting between the two leaders in Busan just earlier this month. What is truly needed for a stable and steady development of US-China ties on the economic front?
Thank you very much, Thomas, for having me. I think stability in bilateral US-China relations does really require a fundamental shift in thinking, both in Beijing and Washington, vis-a-vis the challenges that each other presents to each other. In Washington, D.C., the Trump administration views China as an economic competitor and predator that has taken advantage of the United States over the past 40 or 50 years. And as a result, it's engaged in a very hard negotiation process to reset economic relations.
Now,
let me just finish. And on the Beijing side, they have perpetual insecurity about the United States' intentions towards the one-party state and whether it wants to overthrow the state through applying economic leverage. And these are difficult ideas to change in both capitals.
Now, Stephen, you mentioned challenges. What are those challenges that are the sticking points between Washington and Beijing?
So from Washington's point of view, the trade deficit between the two states is a huge problem. The United States is still, under the Trump administration, worried about fentanyl products or byproducts coming into the United States and being producing fentanyls, which result in apparently 70,000 to 80,000 American deaths a year. They're also worried about different kinds of technologies that could be weaponized in the American economy. So these three areas, plus the AI and other competitive areas, are big concerns for Washington. On the Chinese side, again, tariffs are 47%, and the economy is facing a structural slowdown associated with its population aging. And it also faces other policy challenges and challenges with regards to the collapse of the property market. So both states are challenged in terms of how they will create bridges in terms of stabilizing their economic relations. And I think the agreement in Busan is more of a tactical pause rather than a peace and reset of economic relations.
Okay, Stephen, do stay with us as we move on to our next story of the hour. FBI Director Kash Patel has said that China has agreed on a plan to stop fentanyl-related chemicals as a part of its deal with the Trump administration to crack down on the lethal opioid. Patel added that the agreement has resulted from his trip to Beijing last week, a visit that followed US President Donald Trump's summit last month with the Chinese President Xi Jinping in South Korea. Let's take a listen in to his statements.
While at Ministry of Public Security headquarters, I met with my counterpart at MPS, where the Chinese government agreed on a plan to stop fentanyl precursors. What does that mean? The People's Republic of China has fully designated and listed all 13 precursors utilized to make fentanyl. Furthermore, they have agreed to control 7 chemical subsidiaries that are also utilized to produce this lethal drug. Effective immediately, essentially, President Trump has shut off the pipeline that creates fentanyl that kills tens of thousands of Americans. These substances are now banned, and they will no longer be utilized by the Mexican drug trafficking organizations or any other DTOs around the world.
Meanwhile, China's Commerce Ministry has announced that the country will make adjustments to the catalogue of drug-related precursor chemicals and will require licenses for export of certain chemicals to the United States, Canada and Mexico. Now, Stephen, of course, Washington and especially the Trump administration has long accused Beijing of facilitating the export of fentanyl and its chemicals to the United States. Would you mind giving us a little bit of the background in how Beijing has indeed facilitated the lethal opioid over to the US?
So let's be clear that China has not been involved in exporting fentanyl as a finished product to the United States. But what we have seen is the products that can be used to make fentanyl, this very, very lethal opioid, has been exported as part of normal business to the United States, but also through third countries, which generally enter the United States. So the Trump administration, even in the first administration, the Biden administration tried this, and now the Trump administration has tried to stop these precursors from coming into the country to prevent them from being used to produce this final end product. Whether they can do this or not, I think this is an open question. I do think that probably will take a much more rigorous approach in terms of controlling these substances being exported on the Chinese side, but watching how third countries buy these products for different kinds of biochemical processes and how they may leak into the United States. Lastly, it's the United States that has to deal with the opioid crisis. That means investing in social welfare systems, investing in systems that will get Americans off these drugs. So it's a complicated picture, and I think the solution is not just banning the drugs, it's probably building a social welfare system that can get people away from these deadly drugs that are causing so much havoc in the United States.
Yes, and Stephen, you talk of havoc that fentanyl is causing in the US. What kind of issues is it plaguing US society with?
Well, it erodes away communities because fentanyl is apparently almost instantly addictive, and it creates the kinds of conditions that, sometimes they call them zombies, where they're no longer functioning members of society, and the desire to get these drugs becomes overwhelming, and as a result, they can't work, they can't engage in the normal activities that, for example, you and I engage in, Thomas, and it erodes communities from within. It's a malignant cancer that really needs to be taken care of. Again, I think that there is no quick solution to this problem. Banning the precursors to get into the country is a good start, but ultimately this is about treatment, social welfare programs, building stronger families to prevent people from falling into these opiate traps that are so destructive to countries that are facing opiate crises.
Stephen Nagy, thank you very much for joining us here on NewsX World. It's always a pleasure to get your insight on the region. We now move on to another US-China development, and a US House committee has accused China of manipulating global critical minerals prices, saying Beijing uses its dominance in the sector to gain both economic and geopolitical leverage. The bipartisan report by the House Select Committee on China claims that Beijing's practices have hurt American miners, caused job losses and threatened US national security. Lawmakers have recommended stronger government oversight, potential price controls, and even a national minerals stockpile. The report also raises concerns about the London Metal Exchange, accusing that its ownership by Hong Kong's exchange leaves it open to Chinese influence, a claim the LME denies, insisting that its pricing remains transparent and globally driven. Joining us now is Andrew K.P. Leung. He's a China strategist and he joins us live from Hong Kong. Andrew, thank you very much for joining us here on NewsX World. Of course, China's influence in the rare earth minerals trade is undeniable. How much weight does this US House committee have in accusing China of manipulating global critical minerals prices?
Well, in fact, the whole American geopolitics machinery is under the Trump's leadership, and it's and they are all instruments to further Trump's strategies. And Trump's strategy is to try to use the tariffs um, 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 a, a kind of wrecking ball to disrupt the world's supply and value chain and hurting China's economy. But China's now counteracting with the rare earths, with its rare earth stranglehold. So it's a kind of tit for tat, a kind of measure and countermeasure. And for the United States accusing China to disrupting the global supply chain is really exposes the United States as the pot calling the kettle black, because there is nothing more disruptive than the tariffs war in the first place.
Andrew, of course, the US says that Beijing uses it to its economic and geopolitical leverage. What leverage is the United States talking about there?
Well, I think that the committee calls for a stockpile. Well, that could be just a temporary palliative, because these rare earths find their use into all sorts of products, and for a very, very long time. The whole American economy, including its military complex, relies on these rare earths because they have been the processing of these rare earths, which are very, very polluting and highly complex, nobody wants them, and no countries wants them, and they have been lumped onto China for many, many decades. And China's now succeeded in developing the whole ecology of refining and processing these rare earths, and even the rare earths are coming from other places, like including those in the United States, had to send back to China for processing. So just stockpiling existing rare earths doesn't solve the long-term problem. And these rare earths can be used in this. They are now in very, very short supply, and that's why China's found this very effective countermeasure against President Trump's tariff war.
Well, Andrew, the US is calling for even a possible national mineral stockpile. Is there any hope that the United States and its allies might one day catch up with China when it comes to this issue?
I think it would take a very, very long time. I think that the whole world, the United States and its allies, are waking up to the strategic importance of rare earths, as they woke up to the importance of the medical supplies at the time of the COVID crisis. So I think that for a long, long time, all these essential products, essential processes, especially those which are cheap, very little money in the first place, and they are polluting. They've all been outsourced to other countries, especially China. And now they're waking up to the fact that these materials like medical supplies and also minerals like rare earths can be a very important choke point used by China to counteract coercive measures imposed by the United States. So I think that they're waking up to this fact, but it will take a very, very long time to build up the capabilities in refining some of these rare earths, because it's not just one rare earth. There are quite a large number of them, and they are depending on which product, and then the different types of rare earths have to be used, and it's not just the rare earths themselves, it's the whole process, different processes, and some are very, very delicate and intricate, and they're all highly polluting. So I think that it would take a very long time for the United States or its allies to build up their capabilities, but they've got to start. So I mean, that's a wake-up call, which United States and other allies are embracing.
Yes, Andrew, do stay with us. We have further news coming our viewers' way.